Hello. So can you see my screen now?
Yep, can
Um,
hear you, can see your screen. Yep.
Great. So I'm Dr. Tom Logan. I'm the chief scientist and chief engineer of magAssist. So I was going to introduce some of our products that we've worked on so far today, and also the directions that we're going in the future, and basically who are the sort of people who we're looking for to help build our team and help us make the next generations of products. So magAssist, we're still basically a startup company. We now have 150 employees. Still, nearly 50% of them are in the R&D and science departments. We're based in China, but we do work with universities and consultancies and various experts worldwide. So um, although we're based in China and we're focused initially on the Chinese market, we are a international company, and we're keen to get the best expertise from around the world. So just a bit of an overview of our company. So basically a startup company. So we've gone through all the stages of making products and getting funding and getting awards and stuff. So we were founded in 2017. We went through various rounds of getting funding from venture capitalists and from governments. We uh, but at the same time, we used all our investment to generate some we think of some very good products. So from 2017 to 2021, we developed our first product, which is the magAssist product, and we were able to treat our first patient in 2021, and then through 2022 and in the first part of 2023, we took that product through clinical trials and stuff to get that hopefully into the market next year. And at the same time, we were developing our pipeline of products. So yeah, so we're based in a place called Suzhou in China, which is a little city you've never heard of 10 million people. It's basically next to Shanghai, but we also have R&D centers in Shanghai itself, in Beijing, and in Shenzhen in the south. And we work with consultants and universities in different places, particularly Japan, Australia, Germany, UK, and the States. And the reason we set up this company, and the reason we set it up in China, is because there are a huge number of patients um, with suffering from cardiovascular disease, basically. Well, so yeah, there are over 10 million people suffering from heart failure and suffering from coronary heart disease in China, and that's a big market. That's a lot bigger than the US and bigger and Europe. And we and also the market in China is slightly different. I think the healthcare system in China is actually pretty good, but it's still a developing country, and we have different requirements, particularly for the cost of our products. So we've sort of optimized our products for that, so we can basically treat more people. So so in our first 6 years, we've developed three main products. So the first product is the magAssist on the left. So this is an extracorporeal ventricular assist device, which I'll say a little bit more about in a moment. So this is for providing support for patients in ICUs up to about 30 days. We also have developed the BreatheMo, which is an ECMO system, which I'll also tell you about as the main focus of this presentation. Also, actually, the product which I mainly work on is the magAssist. So this is a percutaneous ventricular assist device. So put in the catheter lab rather than requiring open chest surgery. So this is actually for treating a lot of patients. This is actually a very important product because it can be inserted quickly and cheaply, and the product itself can be cheaper and easier to use than the more invasive product. So this this slide shows our sort of long-term goal, which is basically a sort of multi-organ life support platform. So we initially focused on the cardiovascular system, so looking at heart failure and looking at patients with respiratory problems. But actually, that fits into a wider ecosystem of products treating different types of organ failure. And actually, we also think that the interconnection of the devices so that they can treat different types of organ failure or treat patients which have multiple organ failure in a sort of coordinated way is going to be a very important direction in the future to provide more sort of integrated treatment of those patients. So first, I'll introduce the magAssist. I've said a little bit about this before, but this is the core building block of the ECMO system that I want to introduce. So this is based on a maglev motor and a maglev pump. So the maglev motor and the maglev control system is my baby in the company. And we spent a lot of time optimizing the control systems of that to give very stable performance with large blood gaps, so we can achieve very good hemolysis in our pumps. So based around this maglev motor and around the portable console, which provides the user interface and provides the power supply systems for the product. So this is used as this can be used as a left ventricular assist device, a right ventricular assist device, or a biventricular assist device. So the left ventricular assist device is the most common and most important application. So from that, we either percutaneously or via open chest surgery, we connect the pump to the left atrium or between the left atrium and the aorta, and then we use that for providing a supply of blood basically in parallel with the patient's native heart. And so this is compared to the total artificial heart product, this is a stepping stone because it leaves the patient's native heart intact, and so allows recovery, but it can't obviously provide the long-term support you're aiming for with the total artificial heart product. So this is a little bit about the maglev control system, which is my part. So we were particularly happy that we could integrate all of the electronics and all of the control system within the maglev pump itself, and this means that we feel significantly increases the reliability of the product because it's a standalone integrated part without reliance on high-speed communication with other parts of the system. And we think it provides very stable and very stable maglev performance and very stable blood flow performance. So our key developments in that were the maglev motor and the pump head design. So we spent a lot of time optimizing the hydrodynamic performance so that we can achieve great hemocompatibility, and we avoid areas of stress and we avoid areas of stagnation, so we can avoid thrombus formation. So I think those are our real skills within the company, and that's the sort of people we're hoping to build on. Yeah, this is just a prettier image of our product, and particularly focusing on the user interface and the console part of the product. And because we've optimized the device very carefully, we can achieve great hemolysis performance. So compared to we're basically within the top 1 or 2 of all of the competitor extracorporeal VADs worldwide. And similarly, these are some samples after blood tests, and we, because of our design, we can avoid thrombus formation throughout the product. And we have taken this through the clinical trial, mainly in China, and basically the clinical trial is complete, and we should be able to launch the product next year. So basically, building on the VAD, we have then developed a ECMO system. So ECMO is extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. So this is a technique where you take blood from the patient's venous system. It's passed through a pump and then through a membrane oxygenator to oxygenate the blood, and then put back either into the atrial system or into the venous system, depending on your objectives in the ECMO treatment. And if you put the blood back into the atrial system, you can also increase the blood flow. So that's usually the most popular method. So the components for that are the key components for that are the pump and the oxygenator. So we already have a good pump with very good hemodynamic performance. So this step was to develop the oxygenator for that. We wanted to do that because ECMO is a very powerful treatment. And the fatality rate of patients who don't have ECMO is very high. So basically there's a large market of people who need this, and it's a very effective treatment. Although there are a large number of patients with respiratory failure, it was driven a bit by the COVID crisis to develop this product, and that's one of the reasons we pushed this to an earlier stage in our pipeline to get the product out and to get the product through the clinical trial. So just a little bit of an introduction to the technology. So in the ECMO system, it's based around a hollow fiber oxygenator. So in this type of system, there are basically the product consists of a whole load of very little fibers, little tubes, basically, and we pass blood externally around the tubes and oxygen through the middle of the tubes, and we have gas exchange across the tube to oxygenate the blood and to remove the carbon dioxide from the blood. And also within the design, we have other paths to pass water, hot water and stuff to keep the blood temperature managed. So this is just an image of the product. So you can see that. So you can see at the top is based on our original magAssist product with the console and the pump, but added to that we have the oxygenator. We have the oxygenated design, and that means we have a complete system for providing this treatment. The design of these oxygenators is quite complicated. There's a lot of work to optimize the blood flow path through the oxygenators so that you don't get any areas of stagnation and you don't get any areas of high shear stress. And by doing that, we can avoid thrombus formation in the device, and we can ensure that the blood cells are not damaged as they pass through the device. So we've put in a lot of effort to get that design to be very smooth and efficient. We first ran that through the animal trial. This is results from 10 sheep that we tested, and basically the data is to show that we can achieve a good oxygenation of the blood, so we can stably keep the blood above 300 millimeters of mercury partial pressure. And we can do that consistently across the set of animals that we tested, and we can do that with pretty good hemolysis results. And similarly, we after doing the animal trials and doing the autopsies at the end, we can show that we can do that with minimal adverse events, and we can do that without thrombus formation inside the oxygenators. And we are in the midst of doing our clinical trial for this. So we, again, based in a set of hospitals in China, we've tested out the system, and we have almost completed that, and I think we've completed that quite successfully. This shows one of the cases of a 18-year-old guy who we treated in Guangxi, who was treated with the ECMO device and recovered quite well. So I think what we want to know is a little bit about the future directions of the product, of the company. So I was just going to say a little bit about that. So we don't work in the total artificial heart space at the moment because we have tended to focus on ventricular assist devices because the surgical route is easier, basically, and we feel we can treat more patients in that space. But I think the products there are a whole range of different products, and really the product needs to be matched to the patient to give them the right treatment that they want. But the directions that we're trying to go in are so as I said in the slide at the very start, we're a Chinese company, and there are a lot of people in China, and there are a lot of people who need treatment for cardiovascular diseases in China. And although the health system is very good, there are a lot of people, and getting the cost down is extremely important so that we can basically save more people. So that's one of our main focuses, which we do in terms of to lower the cost, because partly we lower the cost by making the product cheaper, partly we lower the cost by making the requirement for the clinicians less, by making it that they can do the treatments more quickly and with less time spent checking and following up the patients. So that's kind of the direction we're so in one direction we're aiming to reduce the costs and so treat more people. In the other direction, we're aiming to increase the support time that we can achieve with these VADs to expand the range of patients that we can treat, but also keeping the procedures simple and the costs low. The other factor, which is basically to address both of those long-term and lower cost parts, is to add more smart features to the devices. So that's automatically detecting adverse events so that the clinicians can respond to them and deal with the situations more quickly, and also to simplify, also to derive more patient parameters from the data that we can get from the devices, to basically to simplify the jobs of the clinicians so that they can more easily diagnose and treat the patients. We're also working towards integrating various types of organ support devices together to give more coordinated treatment for those patients. So to do that, we need lots of engineers and scientists to do that. So I think from my point of view, and I'm not from the HR department, I'm from the engineering and science department. I think our key requirements in engineers are basically enthusiasm to try out new stuff, because the more technologies we can apply to our products, the more advances we can make and the more treatments we can get. But I think a clear and rigorous scientific approach is also very important. We need to understand the information clearly. We need to design good experiments and good tests to understand the products and understand the various factors which go into them to give good and clear outcomes so that we can really fix the real problems within our products. All of these products are very, very multidisciplinary as well, and all of the different disciplines all of the different disciplines must be optimized together to be able to give the optimum system performance. So it's very important that our engineers understand the role of the other the role of the other engineers, so they can optimize the things in a coordinated way. So this means that basically all of our engineers, although they may start as a software engineer or a mechanical engineer, end up learning about enough about all of the different disciplines to be able to really produce these good products, which require their knowledge of all the different things. We're also developing medical products, which is different from consumer products. Medical products need to work, and they need to work all of the time, because the consequences of them not working are very serious. So we need disciplined engineers who can follow all of the steps to actually get something which complies with the medical devices regulation. And also we need persistent engineers, because we want products which are completed and products which are in the market. And so being persistent to get to the end is very important. The areas that we're particularly looking for, well, the key areas in our team where we're looking for people, and where our core strengths are in terms of algorithms and signal processing, which we use for monitoring our systems and for deriving patient parameters and stuff. Software engineers for embedded software and user interfaces. Electronics, which is mainly focused on mechatronic systems and sensor systems. Also, material science, particularly polymers, is very important to our products, so we can achieve good performance with them. Hydraulic design is very important. We mainly focus on pumps. And also mechanical design and manufacturing and automation are extremely important to be able to get products which work consistently. This is just a overview of our core team. So 40% of our employees have advanced degrees. I think we have 7 or 8 PhDs out of 150 people. 75% of people are below 35. It's a young and dynamic company, and quite international as well. 15% of people have either studied or worked abroad, and this is our core team. I wanted to give an overview of a few of our recent graduates. So these are some of the graduates that I work with, particularly on my algorithms and stuff. So Mengzhe, she graduated from University of Sheffield for a master's, majoring in robotics. She's been here for 3 years and worked in our science and innovation department. So the science and innovation department is basically 2 parts. So it's a sort of early stage research department, a little bit like a postdoc in a postdoc kind of application in an academic environment, to understand all of the early stage technologies and to understand how we can use the latest scientific findings and convert that into our products. It's also applying rigorous science and rigorous testing and rigorous data analysis processes to our engineering process, to understand the problems that we need to solve, and to understand how to fix them properly. So Mengzhe says she's a bit like a firefighter in that she gets assigned to all sorts of different problems in all sorts of different disciplines to add rigor and processing to our systems. Shishi is a software engineer who works closely with us on one of the latest products. He's from Jinghan University in Wuhan, in computer science and technology, and he has been here for 2 years, focusing mainly on embedded software for STM32 and MCUs, which we use for our control systems. And he actually started as a junior engineer, and he was promoted to senior software engineer last year. Although he started as a software engineer very focused on embedded software development, I think he we've thrown him into all sorts of different multidisciplinary topics, and I think he's learned an awful lot of different skills from what a pure software engineer might do. So I think that's quite an exciting opportunity that can happen at magAssist. This is some pictures of our team. We're based in China. We're based in Suzhou, which is a very beautiful and ancient city, and a great place to work, I think, which is why I've moved over here and been here for 4 years. Great. Okay, so that's my presentation.
Thank you very much, Tom. Yeah, it's great to hear about the recent graduates and the different departments that they're in and what they've experienced. So we'll pass it on to Ina now to give a presentation from Realheart. But still feel free to submit questions throughout the presentations or raise your hand at the end. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So you can hear me, yep. I hope. Yeah. Then I will share my screen. You can see my presentation, right?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Okay. So I will share with you what we work at Realheart. So I'm the CEO, and my name is Ina Laura Perkins. My background is I'm a biomedical scientist. I studied an MSc in biomedicine, and that was my first degree. And we are working on the world's first artificial heart that mimics the human heart. So let's see here. So I will start by talking a little bit about our company and our team, then focus on why we're doing what we're doing, so the problem of heart failure and the product, how we're going to get it to the clinic, and then lastly, why we think that it's great to work at Realheart and what one can do as a Realhearter. So the company was founded with the vision that no one should die of heart failure, and to not only save the lives of heart failure patients, but to increase the quality of life. The company is in Västerås. This is our headquarters. We also have a blood testing site at Karolinska Hospital in Stockholm, and we're doing our controller development in our daughter company in Australia. We're listed on NASDAQ, First North Growth, and we've raised over 25 million through investment and soft funding. And our patent portfolio doesn't just cover the Realheart, but also covers other types of mechanical support product, circulatory support product. So the company was started by a physician, Azad Najar. He fled from Iraqi Kurdistan to Sweden, and he started working as a medical doctor. He was really always interested in the heart, but where he was located, he wanted to work as a surgeon, and so he actually started working in urology. But this the idea of developing an artificial heart that could save heart failure patients, with his experience hands-on of seeing his suffering cousin, he just spent his weekends and evenings working on this idea. So here's the first drawing. And this drawing of the heart, he was inspired by, because he saw a documentary on the Discovery Channel about artificial hearts. And he was like, as a physician, like, why don't they look anything like the natural heart? And so that's what he wanted to create, something that copies nature and that functions like the human heart. So now we are have grown a lot since the first day with just Azad. So we have now a very senior team that supports our young and ambitious staff. And we have, for example, the former CEO of Hardware, of St. Jude Medical in Sweden, of Syncardia Europe. So we have all of the sort of commercial knowledge and how to take this product to the market and how to sell it. And then we also have the clinical expertise of 8 cardiac surgeons that support us in Europe, Sweden, and the US. And within the leadership team, we're trying to gather people that have specialist knowledge in certain areas so that they can guide and support our younger staff. So myself, I've worked within blood testing. So I've tested lots of different types of LVADs, and this in different countries and different companies, different product designs. And I started also 4 different blood labs, and now the 4th here is ours at Realheart. And then we have our CTO is Thomas Finocchiaro. So he did his PhD in Aachen on artificial heart development. And he was working as the CSO at Realheart before joining us. Within software, we have Bruce Wedding from Texas, and he has gained the FDA approval of 4 different medical softwares. And then we have Martin Cook with us as a sort of technical and commercial guidance, because he has taken 2 heart products, 2 heart pumps to the market in the EU and US. So really try to cover all of the gaps of knowledge that is necessary from design all the way to market and sales. And we cannot just do this in our own team. So we work globally with our global Realheart network. So for example, we have a collaboration with Realheart. So we have Realheart engineers working and then developing the inside of the Realheart, so the membrane. And then Hydrix are supporting us by developing the controller. And now our most recent addition to the team is In Vivo Power, who are supporting us in developing a test system. So we think that by having our own team, quite small, with core competences, and then adding on the experts, like we're not trying to do everything in-house, we're trying to work with the experts internationally. And so also, so that's for the product development, but also then for the testing, we work with academic universities, so about 7 different universities in the world. And this is to, as a way to really just try to get that core competence that's needed for expert testing, and it increases credibility for us. And also we think that we can gain really, really good win-win situations where academics want to try out our product and want to be the first to publish on it. So why do we do this? Is because of heart failure, which is a really, really big problem. We have 64 million patients in the world suffering from heart failure. And there's a big mismatch between organs needed for transplantation and the patients that die because they need a heart. So we are working on a product that can first be used to bridge patients to heart transplantation. And after that, after proving ourselves with that, we will show that we can also offer support to those patients who never get a chance to be on the waiting list. But we also think that if you make a really, really good artificial heart, you could actually be a better alternative to transplant. So that's our longer term vision. We think that the current solutions are maybe not as patient friendly as they could be. So this is something that we work on, and really great usability, as well as making sure that they handle the blood as effectively and safely as possible. So one of your questions was, what issues should be addressed with a total artificial heart? And I translated this with the 4 success factors that drive us. So we identify these within our team. It should have absolutely minimal blood impact. And why is that? Is because heart pumps or MCS have blood-related complications. So if you can reduce this, you get a patient that feels better, but also a more cost-efficient product, because the patient does not need to be treated for the complications. And it should integrate well with the body. So here we believe in, evolution has created a natural heart with a great pulse. And so we mimic this. If we create an artificial heart, the pumps create this perfect pulsatility like a human heart that should integrate better with the body than a continuous flow. And we heard from surgeons, and we're trying to understand what's hindering the expansion of the use of artificial hearts. And one of those factors is that it's quite tricky to implant, or it can take a long time. So we thought, if we really make it super easy for the surgeons, and amongst this is having our 2 pumps instead of just 1, for example, and focusing a lot on the connectors, then we can increase that uptake, because a short surgery is what all the surgeons want and safe. And then the quality of life. So today, you can't really lead a normal life with an artificial heart, and we want this to be the case. So step by step, this is how we're working towards it. So we're inspired by nature, because we think that nature has already addressed those success factors in a really great way. So this is how the human heart pumps. You have a left side and the right side of two atria and ventricles, and this downwards movement of the AV plane. That's the primary mechanism of the heart, how the heart pumps. So that's what we copy. So we have the real heart. It has a left and a right side, two atria at the top and two ventricles at the bottom. Now you can see the downwards movement of the AV plane, or our AV plane cylinder. So when the AV plane moves down, the pressure increases in the ventricle, the mitral valve closes and the aortic valve opens. So you get a pulse of blood. So it's a continuous inflow to the pump and then a pulsatile outflow. And this movement, we can control the pulse, stroke volume, the percent systole, just like the human heart. And we can control it independently on the left and the right side, because this is the way that we address the left-right balance. So the left pump should typically pump a little bit more to support the bronchial circulation, but this needs to be really carefully managed. So we do this via an automatic control. It's based on pressure sensor input from the atria that then feed into an algorithm. So our system is two pumps. They're connected by a cable, and then there is a drive line that comes out through the skin, and this connects to our controller. So this is the latest design of our clinical controller, and here we're really focusing on usability. It should be easy to wear. You should have minimal cables. So a lot of the LVADs today, they have one cable that comes from the pump to the controller, and then two cables go out to each battery. So the patient has three cables to manage, and we wanted to get away from this. So in our system, the patient, walking around at home has just one cable to manage. Now, this gives you then 5 hours battery life. And what we take into consideration here with the controller design is that patients often sort of look down to check that their controller is okay. And so we have these LEDs at the top, one for status on the left and one that are lots of little dots. That's the battery. So that would sort of go down from 5 as you're using it. And then minimal information, but only the most important information. And that's the battery life. This is what patients always want to see. How much battery do I have left? You don't want to be overwhelmed by like lots of info that can be difficult to interpret. And so we try to keep it really clear, really neat. So if you wanted to go, so this is sort of what we envision one would use at home, but if you want to go out, maybe you want to do a journey, or you want to, you want to have longer battery life, then to the silver port on the side, you could connect a second battery. So that would give you up to 12 hours. And it should be easy to change these. So we're working on this sort of slide in, slide out battery. When you pull this out, you still have an internal battery that lasts up to 2.5 hours. So it's not unsafe to disconnect. But then when you put this in, then you have when it's closed, you have about up to 6 hours, 5-6 hours. And then if you connect that second battery I just mentioned, then you would have up to 12. But living a normal life, nobody wants to have a cable to live a normal life. So we need to get away from that. We are not addressing that as our first product, because I think in this industry, you need to prove that your pump works, and that's considered the main risk. Now, once you've done that, you can then show that your test works. And none of the big players on the market have a wireless energy transfer today, and there's a reason for that. It's not not uncomplicated to develop. So therefore, we progress it towards it in 2 steps. Now, because we like to collaborate, we got this approach from Vivo Power to develop a platform for our system. And so we thought, okay, let's try it, because this enables us to get to that second step a bit faster than if we do it by ourselves. So here is the Vivo Power system. It's no cable through the skin, and it's stepping away from that internal, like inner or an external coil that need to align. So that's like the typical way to do tests. Like you have an inner coil and you have the skin, you have the outer coil. If these are not aligned, then you don't have safe energy transfer. And you can also have problems with heating of the skin. So stepping away from that is what in vivo power have done with this sort of piercing technology. Like when people put like these rods under the skin and so that's sort of what they're doing here, where they're putting the internal coil perpendicular to the skin and then enabling this external coil to connect. And when you have this sort of chain, it is safe. There is never any misalignment, and it will charge the inner battery this way, and then you can disconnect. You could have some time off the cable. And when we compare ourselves, we do it to the other pulsatile systems out there. So with Syncardia, when they have the pneumatic drive, it creates some noise, and you have the two drive lines, quite high weight and lower battery life. So by just moving away from the pneumatics towards the direct energy, Carmet and us were able to be silent and have a single drive line. We have a very energy efficient system, so we can also provide lower external weight and a higher battery life. Then what we like with Syncardia is that they have the two pumps, because it enables the surgeons to sort of optimize it based on the patient's unique anatomy and put in one at a time. And so we kept that. But we think that the Syncardia has some problems with the blood hemocompatibility. There are clinical publications on this topic, and so we wanted to compare ourselves with that because it's the market leader. So I'll show you that data. And then because when you have complications in combination with quite a high device price, it ends up being a therapy that's not maybe super cost efficient. So we think that by making a device that can be automatically produced, stepping away from manual production methods or manual assembly methods as much as possible, having the possibility to do a lower future price, and then also with less complications, we will really go towards TH therapy being cost efficient. So our product pipeline is the Realheart, and this is obviously the pump and controller. And by making the pump smaller, that would be the mini heart, which is then for smaller patients, such as women or, for example, the Asian population. And we're working then on being able to support this without a cable, so that's the tests. But our patent portfolio also covers the use of just one pump as a pulsatile LVAD. Wouldn't obviously look exactly like it is, but sort of the technology is patented. So we're looking at licensing opportunities here for other partners to help us develop it. And then we also have the patent protection of doing this as an external pulsatile system. So how then to take this to the clinic? So we met with the FDA to identify what do we need to deliver on. And there are three main data packages. So hemolysis, animal studies, and reliability studies. And then we package that data to get approval to do the first in human. And now we have a collaboration with Sahlgrenska University where we plan to do the first patient. So for hemolysis, we want to test with human blood. And this is because human blood is more hemolytic than animal blood. And we're developing this for the patient, not for the animals. So we think it's better risk management to really test on human blood. And here we have also then tested the Syncardia with the Realheart, and we are looking at a very physiological test rig that enables us to do pulsatile testing. So I used to test a lot of continuous flow LVADs before, and it's you have to take a lot more into consideration when you develop a testing methodology for something that's pulsatile. You have to have compliance in the rig. And this is with the systemic side. So there's 5 liters per minute, 100 millimeter mercury pressure head. But then we're also testing the pulmonary side. We're also working on now testing this as a full body circulation. And in our in vivo studies, we've shown pulsatile flow, good blood pressure and oxygen saturation, as well as the left-right balance. So we test in sheep. And here we've now reached 4-day survival. So this is within the range of what Carmen has achieved. And the reason it went to 4 days is not device related. It's quite tricky to do these studies in sheep. When you do LVAD studies in sheep, it's my experience that it's a lot easier because the sheep has its own heart and they have a much higher cardiac output need than humans. They also have a smaller chest. They have a triangular shaped pointy chest, and the anatomy is not completely similar to the humans. So you're having a situation where you're developing a pump for the patient, but then you have to test it in the sheep. So this is really the biggest hurdle to overcome is, and from what I've heard from others that have been developing THs, is like it's actually easier in the patients once you come past this hurdle. So the 4-day survival, they had no hemolysis, no thromboembolic events. We had a short heart-lung machine time, so our target is like maximally 2.5 hours, and we've been below that. We pumped 8 liters per minute with a good left-right balance. And below you can see the sheep with a natural heart and then with a real heart. So there are no ECG signals because there's no natural heart in place. So that's the sort of evidence that here's an artificial heart in place. But we do have a physiological pulsatile blood pressure, CVP, and oxygen saturation. We also work with virtual implantations and CFD, and we do this with University of Bath. And here we have a research group where we have funded a PhD student. We actually now have an open position for another PhD student. So if there's anybody who is interested in CFD, I encourage you to apply. And anybody that's an engineer can say that, oh, well, with CFD, you can show whatever you want. But we then use medical imaging to validate the CFD models. So this is another university collaboration where we have a PhD student in a research group at Linköping University, and we use MRI and CT to verify the CFD models. And we have a really exciting project now where we're sort of combining both CFD and medical imaging and hemolysis studies to really look into how to test pulsatile devices. And then we like to get second opinions from the experts on what we say. So we asked Libra Fraziella to use a hybrid simulator to test the Realheart, and she confirmed it's a pulsatile cardiac output. You can easily fine-tune this with the stroke volume and the heart rate, and the flow can be regulated independently on the left and right side, and we can avoid section. So in summary, less hemolysis, physiological flow, and low weight and long battery life. But what you want to know is more about how it is to work at Realheart and who we have employed. So our philosophy is that we build tomorrow's leaders, and by recruiting the young, ambitious talents and then guiding them by a very senior, experienced team of former industry leaders, and then create a really safe and supportive environment to foster growth. And we think it's really important that you do what you want to do, because if you're doing something that you really, really want and like, then you're going to be really good at it. So we try to carefully match applications that we get with the project. So when you apply to work with us, we really ask to say, what's your dream project or what's sort of your dream job? Because we think that that's the best way of gaining the most of our talent. So Eva Maria Cisador, she was one of the first ones to join us. She was an MSc student in 2019, and she worked her thesis on the IP landscape of artificial hearts. But she also has an MSc in immunology. So she's got this mixed background of science and business, and she wanted to do different things. So then we gave her the role of executive assistant to the CIO, so to me, to CEO, and the CIO, the Chief Innovation Officer. And this can sometimes be maybe misinterpreted as secretary. It's not that. It means that she really supports the executive leadership team with what we need to build the business and the product. So she does things like project management. She arranged a Realheart conference. That was the first international artificial heart conference that we had in Sweden. She also arranged our office move, so project managed that. But then she steps into patent portfolio management and is our link to our patent attorney, as she analyzes claims and competitor patents and does freedom to operate searches. And because of her strength in IP, she's really good at also analyzing competitors and finding new venture possibilities. So this is how she supports the business side of it. But with her immunology background, she can also support the in vivo studies and our data analysis there. and then building that all together, sort of grant application, investor presentations, and so. So then we asked her, what does she want to do? And she wants to become a leader and still sort of keep her broad scope. So we're now working towards supporting her with project management, education, and training so that she can maybe take on one project herself within the company, maybe a new venture idea, and then to lead in that. And another example of something different is Emmy Ezendam. She was an R&D intern 4 months full-time on site with us, and she's continuing to be a student. So she's a biomedical engineering student at University of Twente, and then she supported both our blood testing team and our reliability testing team by analyzing the usability of the equipment that we had and designing components and then testing to see that she improved the productivity. And we'd be open to have her back, but this was a limited internship that she did. And then Soteris Androa, he joined us. He has a bachelor in mechanical engineering, and he joined us from Cardiff University to work as a graduate engineer. And now he has progressed to be an R&D engineer. So he's a part of the mechanical design team. So he works on device and rig design and pump assembly. But then also, because of that engineering expertise, he supports in vivo studies and goes to the implantation and is a technical support. And when we have interns and students, he's part of supervising them on the supervisory team. And every now and then, he also likes to go up and show what he is doing at conferences. So here's him from one of the conference presentations. And in 2021, we were joined by Faisal Zaman. So he has an MSc in biomedical engineering, and he started working as an R&D engineer full time. But then he told me that he had a goal that he really wanted to complete a PhD before he turned 30. So we thought, okay, how can we support him? And then we talked to our collaborating universities, and we identified that, okay, well, a lot of his actual regular work can be turned into a PhD. So we are now working on registering him. So it's just in the approvals process of being a PhD student at Karolinska Institute. And we'll then do that at 80%. So he still has sort of 20% of his work that doesn't have to go into his thesis, so we can be a little bit flexible there. And his work then is to carry out blood testing. So really working on how to test pulsatile pumps. And then he also attends in vivo implants. But he's a very important link between Realheart and the university hospitals. So he also manages the hospital staff resources that we have there, plans their working time, and supervises other MSc students or interns that go into the blood lab. And then working as any PhD student on data analysis, manuscripts, and conference presentations. And we really believe in Faisal, and we think that he's going to be a great scientific leader in the future. So we're supporting him all the way that we can to do that. So if you want to join us, like what would be the way to go about that? It would be to submit your CV and cover letter to careers@realheart.se. And really, we ask you to say what you want to do. Have a look at what projects we do and see what is it that excites you and why do you want to do that? And then when and where, so we can plan. Like if it's an internship, tell us when you're available for an internship, if you want to do it in our company or if you want to do it abroad. So then we can sort of match you to it. And if you think that artificial hearts are great and you think that you want to support in some way, then we have just been shortlisted as an emerging medtech company. And this is a competition that's ongoing, and it's within sort of a general medtech area. So if you think that artificial hearts should stand out within medtech, then we ask you to vote for us so that we can become listed as the emerging medtech company of the year. And this is on LinkedIn, on our website, or our company website on LinkedIn. Great. That was all I had to share. So I'm really happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to put in the chat or raise your hand. In the meantime, I guess I have one question for both of you, which is key differences in potentially like entering within like a startup such as Realheart and magAssist and working for you directly versus deciding to pursue the PhD research route and collaborating with a startup instead. Like, how would that differ for a student's experience for their career and wanting to do total artificial heart work?
So I think they're different approaches. So I did my PhD at Cambridge, looking actually not directly in artificial heart, but actually at the same time as our CEO and some other people working on artificial heart or ventricular assist device stuff within our research group. So I think they're basically different routes, and it depends a little bit on what you want to do. So I quite enjoyed following the PhD and then postdoc kind of route because it meant you could. It's not a more relaxed situation, but it means you can really explore all the different technologies without quite the commercial pressure. It doesn't need to be immediately a product, and it doesn't need to be in the market by some certain time to meet the investor requirements and stuff. But in the end, I actually got a bit fed up with the academic situation because it's nice you can work on all the technology, but you can't really. It's more difficult to actually get your stuff into the hands of products. And as an engineer, all you want to do is make products and have people using them. So actually, from a commercial, actually being within a company, it's a better opportunity to get the products out and to get people to use your stuff. And so I think it's a balance, and I think people can work in both ways depending on their major goals. So actually within magAssist we sponsor a few PhDs, mainly in in the UK. We have a opening in Durham University at the moment for a PhD we're sponsoring, and we also work with Brunel University in London. So we've worked with a couple of PhD students now, and also from some of the Chinese universities we work with PhD students as well. So I think that's useful. You can do some exciting research projects, but it's difficult to get them actually into the products that we sell. We also have internships currently mainly from Chinese students as well. So that's another route to get into the company, and you can work on hands-on products for a relatively short amount of time. But if you want to actually get your hands into things which people are really using, it's good to join the company, I think, and you can directly work on the real technology. But obviously, then it needs to follow the medical device process, so there's a lot more detailed testing and a lot more regulatory requirements which go with that. So they're both good options, and it really depends on your heart and goals.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Tom. And I think from what I've heard from our PhD students, and also the reason I did a PhD is because if you in the future want to be some type of leader, then having the PhD title increases the credibility and also is maybe a required qualification to apply for certain sort of more leadership roles. So that would really be the one reason to do a PhD. And the other reason is, you kind of love the subject because you're going to spend 4 years working on this particular topic. And if you don't really love it, it'll be difficult. So the reason to choose it is because there's some type of research field that you really, really have a great passion for.
Awesome, thanks. Another question, at least I had was, I know in magAssist's presentation you were highlighting like the key departments and how you start off on like kind of like devices that are more like pump, and then now you have a pump and oxygenator as your like progression sort of thing. And I was just wondering for like teams participating in the total artificial heart competition, whether you had advice like on a small scale when they have a team of, let's say, 20, 30 students. So how they should be potentially breaking down the team. Like how do they like have a team that does this, a team that does that sort of aspect of it?
Well, I think so. I think actually what we what we've learned in doing this is that having a very strong system engineering department, and having a sort of having some good leading system engineers is super important to get the product to be developed effectively. So system engineers to understand the problem and to break down the problem into the different disciplines and different departments, and good project managers to manage to make sure the work really gets done properly. But I think basically the projects generally get broken down by the engineering disciplines. So software, electronics, mechanics, materials, hydrodynamics is sort of the way we break it down. Also supported by, in our company we have a testing division, which is actually super important to be able to get good and effective data to understand where the problems are and how to fix the problems. So I think, I mean, and also also from a university background, it's also quite similar. I mean, generally the engineers and the scientists are broken down by biomedical or different engineering disciplines, and I think that kind of works. But it's important to have the system leader and the project leader to make sure that the different disciplines really understand each other and really nothing falls in the gap between them.
I agree. It's really multidisciplinary projects where within product development, I think, as you say, the engineers sort of fall into their own knowledge area based on their background. The way that we've approached it is sort of like overall business and development, and then we have product development, and then we have testing. Because we found that within testing, maybe there is some expert knowledge that's needed in testing development, or maybe it's more towards the biological side than the engineering side. But then, of course, there has to be really, really good communication between the product development and the testing, so that the testing guys can convey the results in a way where the product developers know what changes that need to be made.
Awesome. So there's a question submitted, which is very relevant to future years of this competition, which is talking about how you actually perform the tests and compared with real physiological values with the post device implantation parameters, whether there was already like a ready-made test setup that already exists that could be used, or did you need to create custom setups to test either the whole system or individual components of it that would meet the regulatory requirements?
So within any science, I guess you sort of look at what other people have done before and see, can you build on that? And that's the approach that we've taken with the testing. So when it comes to our human blood hemolysis, we found the rig that was published by the Aachen group on how to test pulsatile TAHs. We took that on board, made a copy of that, and then we saw how does it work with the Realheart, how does it work with Cardia, and have been building on that methodology. And similar approaches we're taking for the other areas. But then you also have to have really good and clear communication with the regulatory authorities to know what they require. So you submit your sort of testing proposal, and then you get feedback on it and see have you thought of everything, or do they want some changes made to it?
Yeah, I agree. I think we take a similar approach to Realheart. Really, I think there are some standard tests for all the medical products, like all the EMC requirements and stuff, and which are just standard things, and you follow the medical device standard and do the tests. There is some stuff which, because our devices are fairly innovative, we work with the medical regulator to do the tests, to do the verification, but often they haven't actually tested this type of medical device before either, because it's not, if you could already just easily buy the device, there would be no point in developing it. So we have to propose, we propose some of the tests, and there's some back and forth of negotiation to find things which really effectively demonstrate the product. And similarly, yeah, for blood tests, we've also followed the papers and found some of the best things, but also we find we have to extend them ourselves as well. So I mean, we've originally we thought we could do just some blood tests and that would tell us what to do, but actually blood tests and animal tests are actually testing on the, well, not the patient, but as close to the real things you can really get, and actually they give you the real data and show actually the real problems which don't occur when you just test in the mock loop or whatever in the lab. So from that point of view, we've developed some techniques in terms of that. We've built a blood lab in our company, and it's difficult, and it's a sort of evolutionary process to get to the tests which really demonstrate your product properly.
Yeah, I think maybe a difference with medical devices, from, if I just reflect on my background in pharma biotech, is that you also have to develop the testing methodologies. So you don't just have to be an expert in developing an artificial heart or an LVAD, you have to be almost an expert in developing the test methodologies for them. So that's why I said that there is expert competence needed in this area, and that's why we have these two divides in the company of product development and testing.
Yeah, the testing department is very important. We were a little bit slow to get a proper testing department to divide the R&D from testing, but actually they're really, really critical component in the company working effectively.
Thank you. Yeah, from what I hear, it's like, at least for teams, it's a good starting point to see what is out there as possible test rigs and all that. And then what, as you said, it ends up needing to be expanded potentially based on the needs. I know for next year's iteration of the competition, we will have a workshop more focusing on some basic ideas of a mock circulation loop and stuff. Whereas this year we kind of assumed, it's hard to tell where teams will go. We showed more the computational side of testing. But next year, hopefully we'll have that sort of assistance, but teams may modify that sort of thing. Is there any other questions from the audience? Feel free to raise your hand or type them out. Yep.
Hi guys, thank you for inspiring stories. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm pretty amazed. So Tom, please explain me how you did this magic to develop a product from funding the company in 2017 and having the first patient in 2021 after the crisis with Corona and all these challenges. Give us some bibliography or somewhere where to learn how to be so agile.
Well, I think so. Although we did have the corona thing, actually it didn't really affect stuff in China very much. Although it meant that people spent more time in the office than they might have done previously. It didn't really have a big impact on our work. I think key to doing the development so quickly is kind of the background of our founding team. So our CEO, Professor Hsu, she did her PhD in Cambridge on VAD systems and mock loops. She then went to Aachen University to do a more medically focused PhD on looking particularly at VAD devices, but working with some of the experts in Aachen, and then moved to Suzhou University as a professor to also work on VAD devices. So she had before starting the company. So I think she had the really good medical device and ventricular assist device kind of thread. From my point of view, and some of the other engineers, so I spent a lot of time working on basically motor drives and motor controls. Not particularly focused on medical devices, actually more focused on renewable energy and that kind of thing. But actually, there's quite a lot of core technologies to those products, which can quite easily migrate across to these kind of medical devices, which are all based on drive systems and basically pumps and drive systems and control systems. So I think, and similarly, we had Yifan Yen, who's our chief head of R&D, but he had a strong background in manufacturing, working at Foxconn, and knew how to get stuff made, basically. So I think bringing those people together with expertise in slightly different fields, but bringing them together in China, particularly, where you can get stuff done more quickly than you can in Europe, I think gave us a really good opportunity to bring all the things together. And although the company was started in 2017, I think the ideas and the enthusiasm had been building for quite a long time, so we could put them together quickly and get it forwards into a product. But still, there was a lot of learning and a lot of hard work required to get it through the various stages. So yeah, China, I would recommend anyone who I would recommend to any engineer coming to China to work at least for a bit of time. I think it's a very, compared to working in Europe, it's a very exciting place to be, and you can get stuff done quickly and effectively, and people really are enthusiastic about technology and change, I think, and are keen to get stuff done and improve the situation, which I think is because the country is rapidly developed, and people are, I mean, in 50 years, it's gone from mainly agriculturally to actually, compared to Europe, is pretty much the same level, particularly in the big cities. So I think because there's so much momentum of that development, I think people are enthusiastic about bringing it forward. So I would totally recommend it as a place to work.
Any other questions? One I had was on, though correct me if I'm wrong, because I know at least in the Realheart one, you present how there's like the overall Realheart device, and then there's a mini Realheart device. And similarly for magAssist, you were talking about how the initial key focus market is China. I was wondering if you could comment on like this like patient population specificity of designing an artificial heart, whether you envision is it that there is one just general artificial heart that should work with majority of the population, or whether it should be like a general like series of classes, or is it heading towards more, or if it's even feasible to do kind of more patient specific sort of devices?
So I think that size quite early comes into the picture. We know that for biological heart transplantations, the size matters. So, you know, children, for example, having a human heart transplant, they need other children to be the donors. So that's one aspect of thinking about, okay, who fits your device, and doing virtual implantations and population-based studies to identify the sort of target population group. And then I guess the next question is, how long are they going to use it? Is it going to be a short-term product to support the ones on the waiting list, or is it going to be long-term? Longer term, obviously, having more difficult engineering criteria to meet. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Or if you're asking more like, can you make custom-made devices? Or I guess some of the work in the biological work in 3D printing biological tissues, and so I guess is working towards that way. But I think you have to really think about if you can get the cost efficiency in there. So if you want a device to be used by as many patients as possible, does that then customization become prohibitory? because the cost becomes so high that no healthcare system would ever pay for it.
Yeah, yeah. This is admittedly a bit outside the scope of my knowledge. I just know, for instance, something I'm a bit more knowledgeable about was for a jaw joint implant. Was that there was a company that originally they would make a custom jaw implant for every single patient, which is a longer time, more high cost. And one of the key projects that they did was they looked at the full patient demographics and they were like, oh, we can create potentially 5 devices that would meet the like plus minus 3 standard deviations of the population. So it doesn't get the edge cases, they still need to do custom, but like for that majority, these 5 are good enough, sort of thing. Yeah. But I don't know in total artificial hearts where it's generally that I think it's been like one product, whether that is something that is necessary or needed. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if we look at the Syncardia, they started with the 70cc and they saw that there was also a need for a smaller one and went for the 50cc. So I think you're looking at artificial hearts, that's sort of the general trend.
I think from a magAssist point of view, I think because our products are mainly extracorporeal or percutaneously inserted, it's not quite. You don't really have the same pressure. You don't really have the same pressure for adapting to the patient quite so clearly as you do for the total artificial heart market. But we do. I mean, for the ECMO system, we have a big ECMO system for adults, and we have a smaller ECMO system for children. So we do sort of customize to that kind of extent. And for the interventional pump, it depends. So I mean, we have a main product which is sized to fit the typical case in particularly in the Asian market, but fairly also applicable quite widely worldwide. But I mean, there's competitors in that market as well, and they do also have bigger high flow devices for some patients and lower flow devices for other patients. And it depends what you're trying to do, and it just depends on the needs of the patient. And also, when you implant the bigger devices, it's more difficult to do. You have to use surgical methods to implant them and stuff. So it's a kind of, there's no one size fits all, I think. And also, even between the different devices, the percutaneous device we can use for. It depends on the treatment you're trying to treat the patients for. I mean, so for some treatments, you only need to provide support for a few hours. For some treatments, for a few days. For some treatments, for sort of weeks or months. And for the total artificial heart, you're aiming for a few years. So it's sort of, it's very much, it's not just as one type of heart failure patient. There's a whole lot of different things you need to be aiming for.
Since there's no more questions, I'd like to thank Tom and Ina for sharing your experiences and also information about both Realheart, magAssist, and also some of the more recent graduates that you've employed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
if anyone does want to apply to work in magAssist, we're very keen to have you. And I think Grace will share the links and stuff afterwards to anyone who's keen to come and experience China or stay in China.
Yes, sure. Just please feel free to contact us, and I'll definitely pass your CV or resumes to our HR teams.
Yeah, I will be very keen to distribute both magAssist and Realheart's information. And we'll hope to see some of you in Dallas, Texas for the finals. Yeah.
Yes, we will be there. So looking forward to see you at 9 a.m. on Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And that's the end of the event.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.